Hi, this is the Chapter 6 mini lecture. Here are the learning objectives for Chapter 6. Feel free to pause and read them. All right, in Chapter 6, we're looking at really the strategic management decision and some of the tools that we can use. So in stage 1, we can utilize the external factor evaluation matrix, competitive profile matrix, and internal factor matrix, which we've already talked about. In this chapter, we're going to be talking about the matching stage and the decision-making stage, and we have a whole bunch of tools we can use. The SWOT, which many of you are probably familiar with, SPACE matrix, the BCG matrix, the IE matrix, the Grand Strategy matrix, and the QSPM. So let's go ahead and look at all these. So many of you have probably heard of a SWOT analysis. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So when we look at this, we have we have our strengths and our weaknesses, which are both internal origin, meaning that they're internal to the organization and we can control them. And then we have our opportunities and threats, which are external, which means that they are things that are happening in the external environment. So our whole goal here is to exploit our threats, um, or excuse me, take advantage of our strengths, um, try to fix our weaknesses. All right, we want to, they're harmful to achieving our objective. Exploit opportunities. So look at what are the opportunities in the external marketplace, and try to take advantage of them if they fit with our company. And then try to neutralize our threats. So there's always going to be things that are happening outside of us that we can't control, that can be a threat to us. So let's actually at a restaurant right now. Let's say that you're an Applebee's. Well, your strengths are that you have really good brand recognition. Maybe one of your weaknesses is that um, you um, don't have one of your weaknesses is you don't have a lot of younger consumers. Let's say an opportunity is the opportunity to develop healthier meal options for more health conscious consumers. And a threat might be the current the COVID-19 pandemic. Um, if that, if there were shutdowns and so forth. All right, so once we identify our strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, we can put together SO, WO, ST, and WT strategies. So we can look at what are some of our strengths and opportunities, weakness opportunities, strengths, threats, and weakness threats. This is hard to explain, so let's just look at it graphically. So here we can see this is a retail computer company. So they list their strengths, they list their weaknesses, they list their opportunities, and they list their threats. So one of their strengths, opportunities, is that they could add 4 new in-store promotions monthly. All right, and so they look at, I have a strength of an in-store promotion and really high vehicle traffic. So I can exploit those two things and come up with a strategy. All right, a weaknesses, then their weaknesses is there's a new highway that's hurting their location, and there's a rival computer store really close by. So they could purchase land to build a new store. Now, these are just options. It doesn't mean they're going to do these, they're just options. Um, excuse me, ST. So here let's just look at an easy one. Purchase land to build a new store again. So a strength is they have a debt to total assets ratio that is down to 34%. And the new bypass will divert traffic, which isn't good. So again, they could purchase land to build a new store. And then WT is, for example, they have customer checkout process is really slow. Best Buy is opening a new store and a new mall is being built. So they could hire some cashiers, that would increase the speedy checkout and would kind of be similar to what Best Buy is doing. So that is how you identify those strategies. All right, so the space matrix looks at where we are competitively. It plots where you are and it tells you what type of strategy to take. If you land in this quadrant, you can be more aggressive. So backward, forward, horizontal integration, market penetration, market development, product development. If you land in this quadrant, you're probably going to want to be a little bit more conservative. Um, and then defensive, again, is retrenchment, divestiture, liquidation. You don't want to be down here. And then if you're down here, you're competitive. So let's take a look at what this looks like. All right, so the SPACE matrix is a 4-quadrant framework, and it just indicates whether you're going to be aggressive, conservative, defensive, or competitive based on your data. And so you look at your 2 internal dimensions, your financial position and your competitive position, and your 2 external dimensions, your stability position and your industry position. And then these are some of your financial positions. These are some of your stability, internal, external. I have another video that shows you how to actually do this. So please see that on the course site as well. All right, so we select our set of variables, as we just talked about. Here's some of them we can use. We assign a numerical range from +1 to +7 for FP and IP dimensions, and assign a numerical value ranging from -1 to -7. -7 is the worst. So the lowest number is the worst, the highest number is the best, for our SC and our CP. Then we compute an average score for each of those, plot that average score on the approximate axis, and then add the 2 scores on the x-axis and plot the resultant point on x. Add the 2 scores on the y-axis and plot the resulting point on y. And that's how you get your position. All right, and then you draw a directional vector, and it reveals the types of strategies. And so here you can see this one, they got a 4-4. And so they're a financially strong firm that has achieved major competitive advantage, so they're going to take an aggressive strategy. And it doesn't matter where you fall in here. You can see that both of them are in there. Here's conservative profiles. All right, and so you can read about these. So this one, they have more competitive strength. This one, they have more financial strength. And this one, the firm has achieved financial strength in a stable industry, but it's not a growing industry, and they don't have a lot of competitive advantages. In the situation where you plotted down here, a firm suffers from major competitive disadvantage in an industry that is technologically stable but declining. So you can see this for each of them. Again, you can pause it and read them. I think it gives you a really good idea of how you know where you're, which quadrant you're in. All right, and so here you can see we have our internal analysis. So we had, we listed them all. All right, so we had our financial position, our stability position, our competitive position, and our industry position. You can see that we added 6.4 minus our 2.8, and we got 3.6. So on the y-axis, we went up to 3.6. And here we had negative 3.2 plus 4.0 is 0.8. And then we go over to 0.8, and that's where we're plotted. So you add the FP and SP, and you add the CP and IP, and then you plot it. Okay? I'm sure many of you have also heard of the BCG matrix. It just graphically portrays differences among divisions in our company in terms of relative market share. All right, and so it allows us to really look at our portfolio of products and services. And so you can see we put each of our products and services or our brands or our divisions into the BCG matrix. All right, so this is all internally. With a BCG, you are not comparing yourself to your competitors. You're only looking at your different products and services that you offer. So if we really like cash cows, okay? So we're looking at what is our industry sales growth rate and what is our relative market share. So cash cows have really high market share. They're not really growing, but they're here. So think about, if you think of like a cereal, let's look at the cereal market. We would put like Honey Nut Cheerios down here, right? They're a cash cow. So we can do product development, so we can add new types of Cheerios. We can do diversification, we can add new types of products. Retrenchment, divestiture. Stars are great. Stars are relatively high market share and relatively high sales growth. We want to, in a stars, we want to invest in them, okay? And there's some different strategies you can take with stars, backward, forward, horizontal integration, market penetration development, or product development, okay? Just something I want to say with cash cows, they call them cash cows because you want to milk them. They make you money, all right? So you just continue to make money off of them. Question marks are hard because question marks have a relatively low market share, but a relatively high sales growth. So there's a lot of potential there. What you have to decide is whether you're going to invest in them to try to turn them into a star, or if you're going to divest and just be done with it. So it's a hard decision to be in a question mark. And dogs, unfortunately, are not very good performing product or services or brands. They don't have good market share. They don't have good sales. We just need to get rid of them. So retrenchment, divestiture, or liquidation. All right. Again, I have another video on how to do the BCG matrix posted on the course site. The grand strategy matrix, I think, is actually one of the easiest ones. It really just looks at two dimensions, your competitive position and your market or industry growth. All right. And so you say, how am I competitively between weak and strong? Where do I fall? And how is my market growth? How is growth in the market? Let's say that I have relatively strong competitive position, but there's not a lot of growth. Then that tells me I'm in quadrant 4, and I should consider related or unrelated diversification or joint venture. It's literally that easy. Is saying, where do I fall? I think I fall, and you can use data to determine this, on my competitive position. How is my market growth? Is it slow or is it rapid? And it lets us to plot it and know which strategies we might want to pursue. Again, we're not going to pursue them all. We're just going to say, here are some options. Which ones should I take into consideration? The last strategy I'm going to talk about is the Quantitative Strategic Planning Matrix, or the QSPM. And this one just helps you to objectively indicate which alternative strategies are best. I like this one because it uses numbers, and it actually allows you to assign basically a score. All right, so let's look at this. So we look at our key factors. We have key external factors and our key internal factors. We give them all a weight, all right? And I'll show you an example in a minute. Oops, sorry. Okay, and then we have our strategy 1, strategy 2, and strategy 3, okay, or 4 or 5 or however many. So first, we're examining our sets of strategies sequentially or simultaneously. And so we're looking at external and internal factors that we need to consider for the decision-making process. And this can be used for small or large or nonprofit companies and organizations. All right, it does require informed judgments, and it's only as good as the information you put in. So garbage in, garbage out, right? If it's good input, you have a good result. So let's look at how this is done. So we give them a total. We look at our opportunities. Okay. So here we're looking at our key factors. So we're looking at our opportunities and our threats. Right? So we base this off our SWOT. And then we give them each a weight. The weights of our opportunities and our threats have to add up to 1. We also give them a score of 1 being we're not so great at it to 4 being we're doing really good with it. And then we multiply them, this times this, and then we add them up, okay? So our weights and our opportunities and threats need to equal 1, and our weights and our strengths and weaknesses need to equal 1, okay? And we give all of them a score, and then we add up all of these TASs that you see, and we get a score. So in this one, we're looking at a retail computer score. We can buy a new land and build a new larger store, or we can fully renovate our existing store. Buy new land got a score of 3.64, and renovating got a score of 3.27. So in this case, buying new land and building a new store got a slightly higher score, and so it indicates this might be a more attractive strategy. All right, so that's really, in a really quick nutshell, chapter 6. I have additional videos on all the tools that I want you to know posted on the campus site. Please contact me with questions. Have a great day.